You know how hearing a place name can just sort of bring up images, maybe history, a feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Place names are like packed with stories, aren't they? Layers of history, culture, geography, all in a word or two.
Exactly. And today we're going to dive deep into one name that, based on our sources here, actually points to two different places in Bangladesh.
Yeah, Sherpur.
Sherpur.
And we've got two main sources to guide us. First, there's a Wikipedia entry, gives a pretty broad overview of Sherpur district. That's in the Mymensingh division.
Okay. And the second?
That one's from a government website. It focuses on Sherpur Upazila, but this one's in Bogur district, so a total different area.
Got it. Two Sherpurs. So the mission for this deep dive is, well, to explore both. History, geography, culture, points of interest, everything the sources tell us about each one.
Right, and see what makes them tick, what we learn comparing the details we have.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the Sherpur, that's the administrative district, Mymensingh division.
Right, so Sherpur district, it's up in northern Bangladesh. The source puts it about, 197 to 199 kilometers north of Dhaka?
And administratively, it's actually not that old as a district.
No, relatively new. It was upgraded on February 2010 in 1984. Before that, it was just a subdivision part of Jamalpur district.
Okay, so a modern district status, but the name, Sherpur. It goes back further, though the source says it's not, like, super ancient for this specific spot.
Correct. The oldest name mentioned is Garjaripa.
Garjaripa.
Then later, Mughal era, it got called Dashkahonia Baju.
Dashkahonia Baju. That sounds interesting. Why that name?
Well, it's apparently linked to a tax, a specific tax. People there had to pay 10 Cajon coins each year for river travel leases.
10 cons. So dash is 10.
Yeah, dash means 10, and Cajon was a unit, like 128 pieces. So dash Cahonia, literally 10 Cajon payment. The name came right from the tax.
That's incredible detail. A name from a tax unit. And the current name, Sherpur.
That came later during the Nawabi period. There was an independent ruler, Sher Ali Ghazi, from the Ghazi clan. After he took over and ruled independently, they changed the name from Dash Cahonia to Sherpur, honoring him.
Right, Sher Ali Ghazi. Sherpur. Makes sense.
Now, going deeper into the history, the source says this area, way back, was the southwest edge of the Kamarupa kingdom. Known as Gar Dalipa then, under a Hindu Kutch king, Raja Dalip Samant.
Okay, so Kutch kingdom connection. Then what?
Then comes 1491. Big shift. The Sultan of Bengal sent an army led by Majlis Khan Humayun. They conquered Gardalipa, beat Raja Dalip, and, pushed Muslim rule further north into this area.
Right, and after that conquest...
The name changed again to Garjaripa, supposedly named after a local Sufi, Jarip Shah.
Jarip Shah, Garjaripa. Okay.
And then later, Mughal times, these Ghazi landlords took control.
The history here seems quite eventful. The source also mentions resistance movements.
Oh, yeah, several. There were the Fakir Sannyasi revolts. They were against the East India Company and the local zamindars, the landlords.
Right, and then the Pagalpanthi movement.
Yeah, led by Tipu Shah. He actually declared sovereignty, set up his own capital at Gajava. That's a pretty bold move, challenging the powers that be.
Definitely more than just local unrest. What else?
Well, peasant conferences, too. At Kamar Shar, under Qais Muhammad Chowdhury, fighting for farmers' rights. And then a communist revolt, 1838 to 48, specifically against these really exploitative systems, Nankar, Tonk, Bawali, stuff like that, land and debt issues.
So a real thread of social struggle running through its history, tied to land, power.
Absolutely. And then there was a huge natural event, the 1897 earthquake.
Ah, yes. That one crops up a lot in the region's history.
Hugely impactful here. The source says it actually changed the main course of the Brahmaputra River, shifted the flow mostly over to the Jamuna.
Wow. It reduced the flow in the old Brahmaputra then.
Severely reduced it. And of course damaged lots of buildings, historical ones included.
And jumping forward, 1971.
It played an active role. The source mentions a war committee was formed, and it became a training ground for Mukti Bahini freedom fighters.
Okay, so let's shift to geography a bit. Area is 30,364.67 square kilometers.
Yep. And location, roughly 25 degrees north, 90 degrees east.
Its borders are important too. India to the north.
Right. Mymensingh district east, and then Jamalpur wraps around the south and west.
And rivers. Brahmaputra is the big one, I assume.
The Brahmaputra, Kongsho, Vogai are main ones, plus smaller ones like Maliji, Shmeshwari, Nitai, Maharoshi, lots of waterways.
Natural resources. Anything specific mentioned?
Ceramic soil is the main one listed in the source.
Climate. Typical for the region.
Seems like it. Average highs around 33.3 degrees C, lows down to 12 degrees C. Rainfall about 274 millimeters annually.
Okay. Now, how is it run administratively?
It's broken down quite clearly. The district has 5 upazilas. Think of those like sub-districts.
5 upazilas.
Then under those 52 unions, and then you get down to 458 mauzas and 695 villages.
So a clear hierarchy.
Yeah.
Any towns?
Yep. 4 municipalities listed, which are further split into 36 wards and 99 mahalas.
And the names of the upazilas.
Let's see. Sherpur Sadar, Nalita Bari, Shri Bardi, Jenai Gadi, and Nakla. The source even gives population and area for each from the 2022 census. Sherpur Sadar is the biggest, population-wise.
It even lists current officials.
Yeah, the Zila chairman, deputy commissioner, mayor of Sherpur municipality gives you a real snapshot of who's in charge right now, according to the source.
Okay, demographics, population from that 2022 census.
Total, 1,501,853.
And density.
Pretty high for a largely rural area, 1,100 people per square kilometer.
Wow. Age breakdown? Urban population?
About 20% are under 10 years old, and roughly a quarter, 24.64%, live in urban areas. Slightly more females than males, 1,050 females for every 1,000 males.
Literacy rate. What does the census data say?
For age 7 plus, it's listed as 63.70%. The source notes the national average is 74.80%.
Based on those numbers, it's below the national average.
That's what these specific figures indicate, yeah.
What about ethnic groups?
The source mentions 11,082 people identified as belonging to ethnic groups. That's about 0.74% of the total population, mainly Garo, Koch, and Hajang. It notes that back in 2011, the percentage was a bit higher, 1.19%, mostly Garo, then 2. Overwhelmingly Islam, 96.95% according to the 2022 census. Hinduism is 2.45%, Christianity 0.55%, and then other is tiny 0.05%.
And historically?
The source includes older data showing Islam has been dominant here for a long time, and that small Christian minority, mostly Garo people.
Right. Okay. Socioeconomic aspects. Education first. The literacy rate again was
63.70% from the census data. The source also lists the number of institutions: 3 government colleges, 16 non-government, loads of high schools, 3 government on 146 non-government, junior highs, primary schools, hundreds of those.
plus madrasas and training institutes.
Yeah. 292 madrasas listed, and specific institutes for agriculture, nursing, vocational training. Seems like a fairly wide range of educational facilities are mentioned.
And health facilities.
A similar list: District Sadar Hospital, 5 Upazila health complexes, then 52 health and family planning centers, specialized centers too for diabetes, TB, maternity, leprosy, plus clinics, mission hospital. Looks like a network trying to cover the district.
Economy-wise, primarily agriculture.
Mainly agricultural and trading based, yeah. Though non-farm work is significant too. Over 60% of holdings are farms.
Yeah, kind of crops.
A huge variety listed: rice, wheat, jute, mustard, potatoes, pulses, veggies, tobacco, and fruits. Banana, mango, blackberry, coconut, jackfruit, papaya, lots of tropical stuff. Even monkey fruit and atafal.
Wow. Fish must be important too with all those rivers.
Absolutely. The source really highlights the abundance and variety, both local freshwater fish like rui, catla, bull, and also exotic farmed ones: tilapia, silver carp, grass carp.
So main income sources are farming, fishing, livestock, and non-farm jobs.
That's what the source points to, yeah. A mixed picture.
What about media and culture? Local newspapers or anything?
Several current local media outlets are listed, like Sherpur Times, Sherpur News 24, and interestingly, quite a few extinct ones too, some going way back to the 1860s, shows a long history of local press.
And cultural organizations.
Yeah.
Clubs, libraries.
Loads mentioned: 93 clubs, 4 public libraries, drama stages, 15 theater groups, literary societies, women's groups, even 13 cinema halls listed, plus the official Shilpa Kala Academy and a children's academy. Suggests a pretty active local cultural scene based on these numbers.
Okay, let's talk specific sites, points of interest, archaeological stuff.
Right. The source lists archaeological heritage and relics. Includes places like Gojni Obokash Kendra and Matutila Eco Park. Those sound like maybe recreational areas. Matutila is in Nalita Bari Upazila.
And historical buildings, mosques, forts.
Definitely. Gagra Laskar Bari Mosque, dated 1808. Bardawari Mosque at Garjarpar. And the Garjarpar fort itself, dated way back to 1486-91, connects back to that ancient name, Garjaripa.
Tombs, too.
Several important ones. Tomb of Darvish Jarip Shah, remember? Garjaripa was supposedly named after it.
Right, Jarip Shah.
Tomb of Shah Kamal, 1644 AD. And crucially, the tomb of Sher Ali Ghazi, the ruler who gave the district its current name.
Connecting back to the name origin again.
Exactly. Plus other Mughal mosques and residences of old zamindars, the landlords.
And notable people. Source mentions quite a few.
Yeah, a long list. Highlights people from medicine, politics, sports, journalism. Even the current chief of Bangladesh Army Staff, Wakar-uz-Zaman, is listed as being from here.
Specific historical figures, too.
Yes, like Tipu Shah from the Pagal-Panthis movement we talked about, Syed Abdus Sultan, politician and author, and going way back, Majlis Khan Humayun, the first Muslim governor of Garjaripa. It also mentions Muhammad Kamaruzaman, identifies him as an executed journalist. Specific families are mentioned too.
Okay, that paints a really detailed picture of Sherpur district from that source. Administration, demographics, deep history, culture.
Yeah, a very comprehensive overview from the Wikipedia entry.
Where it gets really interesting.
Huh.
Our other source, the government website page. It's also about Sherpur, but a different one.
Exactly. This source is all about Sherpur Upazila, located in Bogra district. Completely different place geographically, but shares the name. And this source suggests it has its own incredibly rich history tied to that name.
So how did this Sherpur get its name according to the Bogra source? Any theories?
It offers a few. One story links it to an Afghan youth, Farid Khan, killed a tiger, became known as Sher Khan, Sher, meaning tiger, and places got named Sherpur after him.
Okay, a local hero story. What else?
A more prominent theory connects it to Emperor Sher Shah Suri, the famous Pathan king. The idea is the name came about around 1540, 1580 AD, sort of honoring his welfare work.
Suri. So that sounds plausible too. Any evidence?
The source mentions old maps like Vanden Brooks showing Sherpur Mert or Sherpur Mercha, and its listing in the Ain-i-Akbari, the Mughal records, placing it in Memon Shahi Pargana, which is definitely in today's Bogra district area.
So historical documentation points to this area being called Sherpur back then.
Right. It also mentions, but kind of dismisses, other ideas, like the name coming from Sur, meaning head, related to a saint's burial, or just Sher for tiger, because there used to be lots of tigers. It also notes some other local names people used. Sonapur, maybe linked to gold, and Bardwari, possibly from a tax office.
This Bogra source seems to go way back historically too.
Oh, incredibly deep. It mentions the Chinese traveler Hian Song back in the 7th century. He crossed a big river called Kalato to get into Assam, identified as the Karatoy River, which flows right past this Sherpur, and historically that river was seen as a major boundary between Bengal and Assam, or Kamrup.
So this Sherpur was right on a significant historical boundary river.
Exactly. And it was strategically important because of that. Used as a sub-capital, a military camp during the Delhi Sultanate campaigns. Later, a key base for Mughal campaigns into Assam and Coch Bihar. General Mir Jimla apparently rested here in 1661.
The source describes it as a large, ancient city.
Yeah, but says it's mostly ruins now. It claims this ancient Sherpur was famous far and wide, not just in Bengal, but mentioned in places like Malaya, Sumatra, Java, Burma, Siam, Ceylon. Quite a claim.
Wow. And the Karatoy River was a major artery.
Emphasizes that, yes. Says it was swift-flowing back then, and the Bardwari got here was seen almost like an international river port.
Okay, so part of bigger historical regions, Budvarthana or Purendradesh.
Right. And during the Mughal period, they built a big defensive structure here, a fortress or moat system called a mercha along the river.
A mercha. Why?
Apparently built by Mughal commanders specifically to deal with Raja Pratapaditya of Jessore, who was rebellious. This Sherpur was the headquarters of that Memon Shahi Pargana we mentioned.
The source mentions a big battle here, too.
Yes, a major one. Between Man Singh's Mughal forces and the Afghans under Osman, near the Sherpur Mercha. It even talks about war elephants being used.
It gets really specific, doesn't it? Mentions different morchas.
3 of them. Gram Morcha, Ban Morcha, and Pan Morcha, and decides roughly where they were located relative to each other.
So the current town is just a shadow of its former self.
That's the sense you get. The source calls it maybe the 5th version, after cycles of destruction. It was apparently known as the ancient Delhi of North Bengal.
High praise. And its importance faded after Bogra became the district HQ.
The source suggests that. It remained important until Bogra district was created in 1821. It kind of implies that if Sherpur had been chosen as the HQ, maybe more of its historical grandeur would have survived.
It was also a rebel gathering point.
Yeah, for the Kakshol tribe after Akbar conquered Bengal. And the source talks about archaeological finds turning up during farming or digging.
What kind of stuff?
Old house ruins, pottery, terracotta spheres, maybe used in archery, rosary beads, vessels, cowrie shells, coins, even Buddha statues, particularly in an area called Hamshayapur village, which used to be Pathantola, maybe an old battleground or a weapon workshop.
Fascinating. And the 1897 earthquake hit this Sherpur hard, too.
Devastatingly hard, according to this source. It gives really vivid details. Palaces built by the Nator Raj collapsed. Temples, like the Sri Jagannath Dev Temple, destroyed. Houses flattened.
It mentions death tolls.
Yeah, specific numbers. 45 or 50 total deaths mentioned, 18 in just one family's house, 11 others somewhere else. It really paints a picture of sudden catastrophe, emphasizing how beautiful the city was right before it hit.
Who were the original inhabitants? Does the source speculate?
It throws out theories. Maybe Jains or Buddhists founded the city originally. It mentions a Dashkahan ferry tax in the Buddhist era.
Huh, Dashkahan again. Like the other Sherpur's Dash Kahonia. I don't know if there's connection.
The source doesn't explicitly link them, but it's a striking similarity in terminology, isn't it? Anyway, it says the area later became majority Hindu under King Balal Sen, then Muslim populations returned.
Any specific communities highlighted?
Yeah, the Tili community suggests they might have been original settlers because they were traders drawn to the trading center here. Says they were once dominant landowners among Hindus when the area was apparently Muslim-free for a time. Indicates a real back and forth of different groups holding sway.
Wow. Such a complex layering of history.
Absolutely. And this Bogra source really zooms in on specific local landmarks, like the Karua Mosque.
Okay, tell me about the Karua Mosque. Ancient.
Very. Described as 5 centuries old. It's in Kandartola village just outside Sherpur town. The source uses the phrase exquisite construction style.
5 centuries. So 1500s. Does it have a date?
It does, from an inscription. Foundation laid Monday, 26 Zilqa'ad, 989 Hijri. That translates precisely to 1582 AD.
1582. That's amazing. Who built it?
An Abdus Samad Fakir with patronage from Mirza Nawab Murad Khan.
What does it look like?
Dimensions are given. 57 feet long, 24.5 feet wide outside. Thick walls, about 6 feet. 4 corner minarets, 3 doors on the east, 3 domes. Mihrabs inside are semicircular within rectangular frames. Curved cornice, some terracotta plaques, though not many left.
Does it resemble other famous mosques?
The source draws parallels to the 60-dome mosque in Bagarhat and an old mosque in Shahjadpur. Materials were brick, lime cirque mortar, and interestingly, large black stones.
Inscriptions. You mentioned one gave the date.
There were 2. One inside apparently listed valuable property, which was later used. The other inscription, well, it ended up in the Karachi Museum in Pakistan.
Oh, it's a shame it's not local. What about the architectural style?
It's described as a blend of Sultani and Mughal styles. Makes sense, built early in Akbar's reign. The source specifically points out the use of octagonal and dodecagonal columns as being pretty rare in Bengali architecture from that time. Makes it quite unique.
Was it always maintained?
No, apparently neglected for a long time. Got overgrown. But thankfully, the Department of Archaeology restored it in the 1990s. It's used for prayers now, has a caretaker.
That's good news. Any issues?
Just access, it seems. The last few hundred yards of road are unpaved, which makes it hard for visitors to get there easily.
Okay. What else is in that area? Kandartola village?
There's also the shrine of Ghazi Shah Bandegi, Hurrah. He's described as a Ghazi, a fighter against oppressors, and also a preacher who spread Islam around Bogra.
How did he end up there?
Tradition says he came with Baba Adam Shahid and others after hearing about Shah Turkhan's martyrdom. He settled in Kandartola, died there, and is buried there with his 2 sons. Now there's a Qawmi Madrasa and a whole complex around the shrine. People visit it.
You mentioned Shah Turkhan. Is there a shrine for him too?
Yes, the shrine of Hazrat Shah Turkhan. Ra. He's said to have come even earlier, during the early Muslim rule period, to spread Islam. Martyred fighting the forces of the Hindu king Balal Sen.
King Balal Sen again. Does the source mention dates?
It does, but it also flags a conflict. It mentions him arriving around 1047 AD, but notes Balal Sen's reign was much later, 1160-1178 AD. So there's a discrepancy there in the source's own account, but it sticks to the story of him being martyred fighting the king's forces.
Okay. And the shrine. Where is it?
Well, it's interesting. The story goes his head, Shir, fell in one place, now called Shir Mokam, near the Sherpur Shahidia Aliyah Madrasa. His body, Dar, fell somewhere else, called Dar Mokam, in Dharma Mokam village.
So two holy sites from one martyrdom.
Exactly. Both are considered holy, visited by many. And there's this local tradition that 360 aliyahs, or saints, are buried around here, connected with Shah Turkan and Shah Bandigi.
Wow. Deeply layered religious history there, too.
Definitely. But the source shifts gears then to something much more recent and quite sobering.
What's that?
The mass graves from the 1971 Liberation War. It lists specific locations within this Sherpur, Upazila, Kalyani, Goga, Durimukh, and Bagar colony where martyrs are buried.
Oh, right. How are these sites described?
The description is quite moving, actually. It says many are largely untended, uncared for. Some are disappearing or have already vanished. According to the source, only one has been properly preserved with a wall and a plaque.
Only one.
That's what the source states. It really highlights a lack of effort in preserving these important sites and the memory of the sacrifices made for future generations.
That's quite a contrast to the ancient sites being restored.
It is a stark reminder of different layers of history and how they're remembered or forgotten.
So let's just pause and think about this. We started with Sherpur district in Mymensing. We got its admin structure, demographics from recent census, its economic base, a history involving rulers, revolts, the big earthquake.
Right, a broad picture from the Wikipedia source.
Yeah.
Clear administrative entity.
Then we dug into this other Sherpur, the Upazila in Bogra, using the government source. And wow, what a different feel. Incredibly deep local lore, multiple name theories, stories of ancient cities, big battles, the same earthquake, but with very local impacts described.
And those really specific landmarks, the 1582 Karua Mosque with its unique architecture, the shrines of the martyred saints with their powerful stories.
Contrasted with the really poignant description of the 1971 mass graves, mostly untended.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Two places, same name, but the sources reveal such different kinds of stories, different layers of history.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, well, it just shows how a simple place name can be so complex. It can have multiple origins, or even apply to totally separate locations, each with its own unique identity, its own figures, its own landmarks, its own struggles.
Absolutely. It really depends on the source you're looking at. A broad overview gives you one perspective. A deep local history gives you something else entirely, both valuable but different.
It definitely raises that question. How many other places out there share a name but have completely distinct stories just waiting to be uncovered? Makes you look at a map differently.
It really does.
So just to recap everything we've explored in this deep dive, we looked at Sherpur district in Mymensing, its administration, economy, the 2022 census data on population and literacy, its history from ancient times through Mughal rule, the peasant revolts, the big earthquake's impact on the river, its points of interest like the forts and tombs, including Shir Ali Ghazi's.
And then we explored Sherpur Upazila in Bogra, the incredibly detailed local history from its source, the different name origin theories involving Sher Shah Suri and the Karatoya River, its past as a significant city, the accounts of battles and the earthquake's local devastation, and those specific sites, the amazing Karua Mosque from 1582, the shrines of Shah Turkan and Shah Bandegi, and that stark contrast with the condition of the 1971 mass graves.
Given all of that, drawing from these two quite different sources, what really stands out to you is the administrative history of the district, the depth of the peasant revolts or the earthquake stories, maybe the specific architecture of that 1582 mosque, or the legends around the saints, the history tied to the Karatoya River, or maybe that difficult contrast between the ancient shrines and the fading memory of the 1971 graves.
It's hard to pick one thing. The sheer depth of the local history in the Bogra source was striking, but the district overview gave context. It's the combination, seeing how different sources reveal different facets of places that just happen to share a name.
That's a great way to put it. So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. Next time you come across a place name, any place name, think about the layers it might hold. Could there be multiple origin stories, different histories packed inside? And hey, could there even be another place somewhere else with that exact same name holding its own unique secrets, its own distinct story, just waiting in its own local records?